Tadej Pogacar is undisputedly the number one cyclist in the world. He wins on virtually every terrain, and at 23 years of age is for many the true successor to Eddy Merckx in cycling. Pogi's voracious hunger to win in all types of competitions, from classics to grand tours and one-week races, makes him the terror of many of his rivals, who are already disappointed and mentally broken by the Slovenian's power. Do you want to know who they are? Without further ado, let the show begin. Enric Mas. This Spanish rider was undoubtedly earmarked to be the successor of the champion Alberto Contador. His promising results, such as his second place in the 2018 Vuelta a España, indicated that this might happen. But unfortunately for him, the arrival of a new generation, led by Pogacar, has totally destroyed his mentality. When he left Quickstep to join Movistar, he recognised that, although he had been chosen as a team leader for the Tour de France, this could only be, at best, a top 15 overall finish. In 2021, although he finished second again in the Vuelta, he was almost 5 minutes behind the winner, Primož Roglič. And in interviews, he had no qualms in recognising that he would have no chance of winning in a race where Roglič or Pogacar, or as they call him on the Spanish team, Pogacar, were present. Our Enric seems totally demotivated. Ben O'Connor. This Australian rider is one of the best climbers in the world. Riding for the French team AG2R Citroën, he finished fourth in the last Tour de France, and even won a high mountain stage in the French Loop. However, despite his good results, he has been demotivated whenever Pogi is mentioned to him. He believes that the UAE rider is practically unbeatable, and that even at 120% of their performance, they still couldn't beat him. As you can see, a very sad way to fight for the Tour de France. Remco Evenepoel. It seems quite unbelievable that this little Belgian cyclist is intimidated by anyone, because since his emergence in the 2018 Junior World Championships, he has always been considered as the next big thing in cycling by the most prestigious analysts. However, the arrival of his almost generational compadre Tadej Pogacar simultaneously to professionalism in 2019 has overshadowed all the successes of the great Belgian cyclist. Remco himself in Tirreno Adriatico 2022 was superior to Pogi in the time trial, but as soon as the road got steeper, his performance was well behind that of the Slovenian champion. He is also continually criticised by Eddy Merckx, who has already declared that Pogi is his true successor. It seems that Evenepoel will be the greatest victim of his generation, thanks to the arrival of Pogacar. Alejandro Valverde. The Spanish cyclist is one of the most winning riders of all time. Champion of 5 Lieges, a World Championships, and a Vuelta a España, amongst other prestigious titles, Valverde Belmonte, or as his fans know him, Pity, has been another of the cyclists who has paid homage to today after the Strade Bianche 2022. The Spaniard finished a great second place behind the Slovenian, and curiously celebrated as if he had been the winner. At the finish line, he declared that it was impossible to beat such a rider, although from our perspective we believe that if he had raced differently in his youth, he himself could have been the Pogacar of his time. A pity that someone of his abilities should be so incapable of fighting with the monster Pogi, even in his old age. Adam Yates. The British cyclist has been a classic of the peloton since he arrived on the professional scene with his brother Simon from the track. With great climbing ability, he is, for Pogacar, one of his biggest rivals. As the UAE man claims that he is the rider who produces the most watts of power in his attack. However, in the last UAE Tour in 2022, the Ineos rider was completely unable to come close to the Slovenian's performance. In a press conference, he made it clear that coming second behind such a champion was quite an achievement, that it was enough, and that he didn't plan to win. So, In the same style as Valverde then. What a pity. Tom Dumoulin. Undoubtedly one of the cyclists most affected by the arrival of Pogacar at the highest level. This excellent Dutch time trialist and tour man seemed to have shown his teammate Primož Roglic the path to glory on September 19th, 2020. The day Pogi shocked the world on the Planche de Belfi by destroying the stopwatch and taking the yellow jersey from his compatriot and the stage win from Dumoulin. The former Giro d'Italia winner said he found it unbelievable that Pogi, who looked to him like a miner on a bike who didn't know how to pedal, would win a Tour de France. Since then, we've seen a temporary retirement and continuous defeats to Pogacar in all kinds of competitions, like the last UAE Tour 2022. His teammate Roglic is over his defeat. Dumoulin is not yet. Nairo Quintana. We could not leave without talking about the great Colombian climber of Arkea Samsic. Although every year he still wants to fight for his yellow dream of winning the Tour de France, everyone around him knows it's impossible. Arkea's own director commented publicly that it is impossible for Nairo to be at the same level as Roglic and Pogacar, and the coffee grower responds on the road in the same way. Although he continues to show ambition in his words, that ambition is only shown in small tours without excessive competition, and he certainly doesn't see himself at the level of the Tour de France champion. In an interview at the end of the last tour, he declared that the Slovenian is a great rider, that he also has a great team around him, and that it's impossible to compete against a team like UAE. In addition, he acknowledged at the end of the year that the use of exogenous ketones caused a two-speed cycling, in which Nairo, according to him, cannot compete. All in all, a pity for a champion like him.